Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we'll be taking a gentle journey across centuries and continents, following the soft and swaying history of something simple yet profoundly comforting, the hammock, and its close cousins, the hanging bed. Wherever you are, whether tucked into your own bed or nestled beneath a warm blanket, I invite you now to set down the worries of the day. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breathing slow. And as you close your eyes or let them flutter, picture a peaceful place, somewhere warm perhaps with a slow breeze, and a hammock gently swaying beneath a leafy canopy. We'll begin our story in the forests of long ago and drift ever so gently through time. Long before there were ships and sailcloths and beachside resorts, the hammock was already being gently strung between trees in the humid, shaded forests of Central and South America. Historians believe that the earliest hammocks were crafted by the Maya, perhaps as early as 1,000 years ago, maybe more. These were not luxuries, but rather everyday essentials. Woven not of fabric, but of the bark of the hammock tree, from which the hammock may take its name, the earliest versions were suspended off the ground to protect against snakes, insects, and damp forest floors. They were functional, yes, but they were also peaceful. Hanging between two trees, one could rock lightly, feeling cool air beneath the body, even in the humid jungle. The Maya, and later other Mesoamerican cultures like the Taino and Arawak, refined the craft. They used sisal fibers derived from agave plants, strong and flexible. Over time, hammocks weren't just practical. They were woven into daily life, into tradition, and even into the language of rest. Some hammocks were tightly woven, others open, like nets. They could be easily rolled up, moved, hung again in the shade. These were tools for travelers, places to sleep, and quiet retreats after long work in the sun. By the 15th and 16th centuries, European explorers began to notice this curious, sling-like bed among the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean. When Spanish and Portuguese ships brought the concept back across the ocean, it quickly found a new home aboard sailing ships. Now picture this, a wooden vessel creaking as it moves through waves, the smell of salt air, the pitch and roll of the sea beneath your feet. For sailors, the hammock was a revelation. Before hammocks, crews often slept on the hard deck, on damp straw or rough planks. But a hanging bed? That could sway with the motion of the ship. It was less likely to be thrown about. A hammock offered comfort at naval vessels. The British Royal Navy used them for centuries. Sailors would unroll them at night, string them to the beams, and gently sway as the ocean rocked them to sleep. Some even called it the sailor's cradle. Over time, ships created systems for storing hammocks during the day. They were rolled tightly, stacked, and even used as makeshift flotation devices in emergencies. But at night, as the sky glittered with stars and the wind carried across the decks, hundreds of men might lie swaying softly in hammocks, murmuring stories or falling into the rhythm of the sea. As colonial trade expanded, so too did the hammock. It became known in distant lands, and not just aboard ships. Hammocks spread to Europe, to India, to West Africa. Wherever colonists or sailors travelled, the hammock followed, a light and practical solution for sleep. In warmer climates, it became a fixture on verandas and courtyards. Travellers and merchants, often from Portugal and Spain, found hammocks far more comfortable in tropical heat than traditional beds. By the 19th century, you could find hammocks strung between stone columns in India, or hanging on the wide porches of Caribbean plantations. But not all hammocks were for humans. In some homes, especially in places like Brazil and the Philippines, babies were placed in small netted hammocks, swaddled and gently rocked, much like they had been centuries before in the jungles of the Yucatan. Even cats, dogs and monkeys in tropical households were sometimes gifted miniature hammocks to rest in the shade. The art of making a hammock has its own history. In the Yucatan, in the small town of Tixcocob, even today, traditional hand-woven hammocks are a point of pride. Women and men still tie and knot thousands of threads using wooden looms, crafting net-like slings with remarkable strength and beauty. It can take several days to make a single hammock. Each one is unique. Some are wide and soft, perfect for an afternoon nap. Others are finely strung with colourful patterns, resembling works of art. The process itself is meditative, a rhythm of loop, knot, tie, over and over again. A tradition passed down quietly from mother to daughter, father to son. Across the globe, hammock-making techniques vary. In Venezuela, the Warao people use moriche palm fibers. In the Philippines, families once braided abaca fibers for hanging beds in simple bamboo homes. The hammock, in this way, is both universal and intimately local. While hammocks were gaining ground among sailors and travellers, the hanging bed, a cousin to the hammock, was quietly appearing in more opulent settings. In 17th century France, noble homes experimented with suspended beds. Wooden frames hung with chains from ceiling beams. In 17th century France, noble homes experimented with suspended beds. Wooden frames hung with chains from ceiling beams, or swung gently with ropes from canopies. They were not just practical, though they helped with ventilation and pests, but fashionable too. In parts of Southeast Asia, noble families used swinging beds in their homes, cooled by evening breezes and sometimes rocked gently by servants or cords. Some of these beds were beautifully carved, strung with silks or satins and surrounded by hanging curtains. Not the woven simplicity of a hammock, but a more formal cousin, still swaying, still soft. In the Ottoman Empire, daybeds were sometimes suspended in garden pavilions, not for sleep, but for repose. A quiet place to drink tea, to read poetry, or simply to rest. On the American frontier, hammocks continued to be used in remote camps, especially where beds were impractical or the ground was rough. Pioneers might string them between trees or nail them to the walls of log cabins. Some soldiers carried lightweight canvas hammocks during early campaigns, using them in makeshift camps under the stars. Even Thomas Jefferson had hammocks at Monticello, praising their comfort during Virginia's hot summers. In the American South, porches were often strung with canvas or rope hammocks, a place to rest during long afternoons. Swings, too, became common, a nod, perhaps, to those gentle hanging beds of earlier times. Today, the hammock has become a symbol of peace, of rest, of summer afternoons and tropical retreats. You'll find them on balconies and beaches, in campsites and city apartments. Some are made of nylon, others of cotton, and some still are made the old way, from hand-dyed threads and hours of care. We don't always think of them as ancient tools, but every time we lie in a hammock, we share a quiet moment with the past, with Maya farmers, with Spanish sailors, with Caribbean children rocking to sleep in the shade. It's a humble thing, 2 ropes, some cloth, and the gift of flowing. It is the rhythm of stillness, of sway and silence, of breathing and being. And now, dear listener, perhaps your own body has slowed. Your eyelids are heavy. You might feel as though you too are gently swaying, suspended above the ground, in a cradle made of stories and sleep. Thank you for joining me on this slow journey through the history of hammocks and hanging beds. The world is full of noise and motion, but here, in this moment, may you find the opposite. Let the echoes of soft woven fibers, ancient trees, sea air, and quiet porches cradle your thoughts. Let your breath be easy, Let your body be still. Sleep well, and may your dreams be as light and peaceful as a hammock swaying in the breeze. Good night.